So Adrian and Rob have explained sort of how we got here, where we are, what we've been up to. I'm here to tell you what the next steps are and then some of the more technical details about how we raise the money. We're going to form a community benefit society. So this is what used to be called Industrial and Provident Society. So it's a not-for-profit which is for the benefit of the community. It has shareholders, and no matter what their shareholding, have one vote, and that kind of stops the ability of a big shareholder to kind of control the business. If we raise enough funds, then we can make an offer for the Black Horse freehold, talk to the vendor, and at the same time inform South Cambs District Council. So this is, as kind of Rob explained, this is really important, that we need to get in a credible bid and business plan with the tenant and the council so that they know the community is serious about buying the pub, and that makes it difficult for it to become housing, for example. So that's kind of the key step we're trying to get to. And we do actually want to buy the pub, and we do actually want to open it, and we do actually want to make something that's really great for the community. And of course we've got to refurbish. There's some essential maintenance required, and there's some things we'd like to do to it. And finally, find a tenant or a manager. Our current plan is to rent it out to a tenant as per normal pubs, so it would be an untied tenanted pub. But we are also in the background looking at a managed model to see if there's some pluses and minuses to both. We haven't quite made up our mind. So how have we got on with our fundraising? So our lovely parish council have given us £500. Thank you very much. That's extremely helpful. And we've also managed to fill in enough forms to get £2,500 from the Plunkett Foundation, but we give them £500 back to join their society. Go figure. Well, two things. They're extremely knowledgeable and experienced in this, and they also have government money. So they could, if we prove that we have sufficient funds and fill in enough paperwork and tick all the boxes, which is reasonably likely if you guys do your bit, which I'll explain later, get up to £100,000 of money split between half of it a grant, half of it a loan. So that would obviously be very helpful. Then there are other smaller grants and loans available. So I mean, we could take a mortgage out on the pub, and there are other things like something we saw the other day, A14 Community Fund, which is a fund set up by I guess the government and the Highways Agency to give out money to community efforts that are affected by the A14 works, and we seem to tick some of the boxes, so that could be another place we could get order of £10,000 from. But the biggie at the bottom here is our community share issue, and that's what I'm going to talk about next. So how does it work? The Community Benefit Society will issue shares. The price of a share is £50. Anyone can buy one share or many shares. And the important point, as we've sort of explained before, is that it's one shareholder, one vote. If you've got £10,000 of shares or one £50 share, then you still have the same voting rights as anyone else in the society. In our business model so far, we do actually have the desire to pay some interest on these shares after a certain amount of time, once the business has become viable. Another important point for some people who might be interested, which hopefully most shareholders will be, is that certainly in other pubs that have done this, who've done this exactly to this model, the Community Benefit Society and share issue, they have been eligible for tax relief schemes that the government give out. So you have to, once you've set up your Community Benefit Society, you've got to apply to HMRC to get these shares approved, to have the tax relief. This particular one, SITR, which is the one we believe is probably the most relevant, you get 30% back if in tax relief. There's capital gains holder relief and capital gains disposal relief. Minimum investment period of 3 years. And a quick example, if you put £10,000, you buy £10,000 of shares, hopefully, please, you'll get a tax relief credit of £3,000 from the government. If you've paid at least £3,000 of tax, you'll get that credited back to you. So the total cost of the investment is only £7,000. They're not like normal shares in that you don't make any capital gains on them. So the money you put in doesn't appreciate with the value of the asset inside the society. So if the pub went up to twice its price, the shareholders their shares don't get twice as valuable. So that's one of the key differences here. One other thing I'll say is you don't get any capital gains, but your liability is also limited to the amount of money you put in the shares. If it all goes goes wrong and everything gets liquidated, the worst you'll lose is the money. You're not liable for anything else within the business. Now, I say that if for whatever reason this thing does not become viable, there is still an asset there. So what would happen is the asset would be sold, any outstanding debts would be paid, shareholders would then get their money back from whatever's left, and if there's anything left after that, then it has to go to charity. Again, that's another rule with the CBS. You can apply to redeem shares after 3 years. The point at the bottom is really important. It's not really a financial investment. It's not going to make you rich. There are some good tax breaks for it, so it's not necessarily a bad investment. But really, it's about investing in the community. I guess it kind of speaks for itself. We as a community want to reopen the pub. This is the way. Really, the only way we can get significant funds to do it. It's been done by others and has worked. We've talked very positively about all this, and we're quite enthusiastic, as you probably noticed. But there's a very valid question. Why should we succeed? As Robbie has said, there's over 50 community pubs have already been established in this way. So far, none of them have failed. We have got our expert help on hand, so we've got Plunkett Foundation, we've got Pub is the Hub, so these guys are excellent, and Plunkett certainly has money. And the 2 points really at the bottom of the key points is we're doing this for us, and hopefully that means we'll use the pub, we'll provide the facilities we want, we'll listen to the community. If it doesn't work quite perfectly the first time, we can go back and help improve it. And secondly, as a committee who's running the Community Benefit Society, we will actively help the tenant or manager with community engagement, trying to understand what people want. That will be really the mission of the society. So the tenant doesn't have to do all of that himself as well. There's a society there, and also the society has some financial levers that they can use, because they're obviously the landlord for the tenant. We could, for instance, do some extra work on the pub, or we could spend some money doing something that's an experiment for the community. Things like this that a normal landlord wouldn't be able to do, because we're not for profit. We're not after making a lot of profit. We're after making this thing viable and sustainable. And yeah, so nice graphic at the bottom. So this pub of the year 2017 is a community-owned pub, the George and the Dragon in Yorkshire. So if they can do it, looking at how many people have turned up tonight, I think we've got a good chance of doing it as well. Okay, so this is largely what you guys told us from the survey, and these are things we think are reasonably achievable for the pub. Definitely needs updated decor, something that a lot of people have said, although it wasn't on the survey, new toilet, so we'd hope to renovate the toilets, make a disabled toilet. Good beer, so we've been talking to Lord Conrad's, our local brewery, and John's been very helpful in setting up our pop-up pubs and talking to me a lot about beer prices. And of course, beer festival, events, evenings, village larder, this was talked about before, having essentials you can go and buy rather than having to go all the way to Bar Hill. And it's a community effort, we want to run this for the community. Right, so this is the important bit. So we've said a lot of words here tonight, and thank you all again for coming. Now we need you guys to pledge. So I'll explain what that is. So this is a non-binding agreement to buy shares in the Community Benefit Society. We need a gauge of how much money we can raise by selling these shares, so that we can basically carry on the project. We need those forms in by the 1st of August, just again, so we've got enough time to get our bid together and also organise for the real share issue. So as I said, they're non-binding. So this is how many shares would you buy if you'd seen the business model and you were happy that you were kind of satisfied as an investor. And that's really it.
Whatever the outcome, I wanted to register thanks to the 9 people and all the work they've done so far.